The fluorescent lights of Denver International Airport's baggage claim area hummed steadily overhead, casting their sterile glow on the sea of weary travelers gathered around Carousel 7. It was 9:47 a.m. on an ordinary Tuesday morning in late September. An officer had already been on duty for 3 hours. His K-9 partner, Duke, a magnificent 4-year-old German shepherd with intelligent amber eyes and a glossy black and tan coat, walked calmly beside him, their synchronized steps a testament to 3 years of flawless partnership. Had performed this routine patrol hundreds of times. The airport K-9 unit's primary job was straightforward: detect narcotics, explosives, and other contraband while maintaining a visible security presence that reassured travelers and deterred criminals. Duke was exceptional at his job, one of the top-performing K-9s in the entire Denver Police Department. His nose could detect substances that sophisticated machines often missed, and his calm, professional demeanor made him perfect for the high-stress airport environment. As they approached Carousel 7, noticed the usual scene: businessmen checking phones impatiently, families corralling excited children, elderly couples pointing out their matching luggage sets. The conveyor belt groaned to life with a mechanical whir, and the first suitcases began their circular journey. Red duffel bags, black rolling cases, colorful backpacks, all tumbling onto the belt in the chaotic choreography of air travel. Then something changed. Duke's entire body went rigid. His ears shot forward, his tail stiffened into a straight line, and every muscle in his powerful frame locked into acute attention. Felt the leather leash suddenly pull taut in his hand. This was unusual. Duke never broke focus during routine patrols unless he detected something significant. "Easy, boy," murmured, instinctively scanning the crowd for potential threats. His hand moved closer to his radio, years of training kicking in automatically. But Duke wasn't easing. If anything, his agitation was intensifying. A navy blue hardshell suitcase emerged from the conveyor belt's rubber flaps, unremarkable except for a single detail. Duke had locked onto it with laser focus. The K-9 lunged forward with such sudden force that nearly lost his grip on the leash. Duke's claws scraped against the polished airport floor as he pulled toward the carousel with strength that shocked his handler. "Duke, heel," commanded sharply, using his most authoritative tone, the one that had never failed to control his partner. Duke ignored him completely. The German shepherd began whining, a high-pitched sound that had never heard from him before. It wasn't Duke's normal alert whine, the calm, controlled signal that meant, "I've detected something, handler." This was frantic, almost desperate. Duke's paws scrabbled at the air as he strained against the leash, his entire 85-pound body trembling with an urgency that made stomach tighten with apprehension. Passengers began backing away nervously. A mother pulled her 2 young children close. A businessman in an expensive suit stepped behind a support column. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "What's wrong with that dog? Is something dangerous? Should we leave?" His mind raced through possibilities. In 3 years of partnership, Duke had alerted to cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and even explosives during training exercises. But he'd always done so with professional precision, sitting in his alert position, waiting calmly to investigate. This behavior was completely unprecedented. The navy blue suitcase continued its lazy rotation on the carousel, passing directly in front of Duke. The K-9 erupted into a series of sharp barks, his front legs lifting off the ground as he strained forward. His eyes never left the suitcase, tracking it with an intensity that bordered on obsessive. "Officer, what's happening?" a nervous gate agent asked, approaching cautiously. Didn't answer immediately. His training told him to trust his K-9's instincts absolutely. If Duke was this agitated, there was definitely something in that suitcase, something significant enough to override 3 years of disciplined training. Duke suddenly broke his alert, lunging forward again and pawing frantically at the moving conveyor belt. His claws left scratch marks on the rubber surface. He circled once, twice, 3 times, then sat abruptly in his alert position, only to jump up seconds later and resume his frantic pawing. The alternating behavior was a textbook sign that whatever was inside that suitcase was present in overwhelming quantities or unusual circumstances. His hand went to his radio. "This is K97 at Baggage Claim, Carousel 7. I need backup immediately. Duke has a hot alert on a navy blue hardshell suitcase. Repeat, hot alert, possible narcotics or explosives. Requesting TSA and security response." The radio crackled back. "Copy that, K97. Units responding. ETA 2 minutes." The crowd's whispers turned to concerned murmurs. Some passengers began moving toward the exits without collecting their luggage. Others stood frozen, morbidly curious about the unfolding drama. Pulled Duke back about 10 feet from the carousel, but the K9's agitation didn't diminish. The German shepherd continued whining, his amber eyes fixed on that blue suitcase as it made another rotation past them. Sweat beaded on Duke's muzzle. His breathing was rapid, almost panicked. In his entire career, had never seen Duke behave this way. His partner wasn't just alerting to contraband. He was desperate to get to it, as if every instinct in his highly trained body was screaming that this was the most important detection of his life. The navy blue suitcase continued its endless circuit on the carousel, seemingly innocent among the dozens of other bags, but knew better. Whatever was inside that ordinary-looking piece of luggage had triggered something extraordinary in Duke. Airport security officers were already jogging toward them, radios crackling with urgent communications. TSA agents appeared from side corridors. The baggage claim area was about to be locked down. Kept his eyes on that blue suitcase, his heart pounding in rhythm with Duke's frantic whines. Whatever truth lay hidden inside that luggage, they were about to discover it. And had a sinking feeling that this ordinary Tuesday morning was about to become anything but routine. Within 90 seconds, Carousel 7 was surrounded by a wall of uniformed officers. Airport security created a perimeter with retractable belt barriers, pushing curious onlookers back 20 feet. TSA agents moved with practiced efficiency, their faces grim and focused. The cheerful atmosphere of the baggage claim area had evaporated, replaced by a tension so thick it seemed to make the air itself heavy. Duke remained fixated on the navy blue suitcase, which continued its slow, methodical rotation on the carousel. Each time it passed, the German shepherd's whining intensified, his body quivering with barely contained energy. Kept a firm grip on the leash, watching his partner with growing concern. In 3 years, he'd never seen Duke this desperate, this consumed by a detection. "We need to identify the owner," barked Agent Tom from TSA, a stocky man with 20 years of airport security experience etched into the lines of his weathered face. "Nobody touches that bag until we know who it belongs to." A young TSA officer began checking baggage claim tickets, moving through the remaining crowd with calm authority. Most passengers had already backed away from the carousel, some filming on their phones despite repeated requests to stop. The officer worked methodically, checking tags against tickets, eliminating bags one by one. Then from the edge of the crowd, a small, trembling voice spoke up. That's my suitcase." Every head turned toward the source of the voice. Standing near a support column was a woman who looked like she belonged in a Norman painting rather than the center of a potential criminal investigation. Was approximately 5'3", with silver hair styled in a neat bob, wearing a floral cardigan over a modest blue dress. Reading glasses hung from a beaded chain around her neck. She clutched a well-worn leather purse against her chest like a shield, and her face had gone completely white. "Ma'am, please step forward," Agent instructed, his tone professional but firm. His legs seemed barely able to carry her. She walked toward the officers with halting steps, her sensible low-heeled shoes clicking softly on the polished floor. As she got closer, could see she was trembling, not just her hands, but her entire body was shaking like a leaf in a storm. "That navy blue suitcase is yours?" asked, gesturing toward the bag that Duke was still tracking with obsessive intensity. "Why, yes," stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I checked it in Phoenix this morning. I don't understand what's happening. It's just clothes for visiting my daughter." Sweat had begun beading on his forehead despite the airport's efficient air conditioning. Her hand fumbled inside her purse, emerging with a crumpled baggage claim ticket. The numbers matched perfectly. Studied her carefully. His years as a police officer had taught him to read people, to distinguish between genuine fear and the nervous behavior of someone hiding guilt. Didn't look like a criminal. She looked absolutely terrified and utterly confused. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some identification," said, pulling out a small notepad. His hands shook so violently that she dropped her driver's license twice before successfully handing it over. Examined it carefully, then radioed the information to dispatch for a background check. "Mrs.," interjected gently, trying a softer approach, "can you tell me what you packed in that suitcase?" His eyes, a faded blue that might have been vibrant in her youth, filled with tears. "Just clothes, officer, I swear. 3 blouses, 2 pairs of slacks, some undergarments, my bag, a cardigan, and a book I'm reading. Nothing else. I packed it myself at 5:30 this morning in my bedroom." "No medications, no food items, nothing unusual," pressed. "Just my blood pressure medication in my carry-on," said, patting her purse. "I'm a retired elementary school teacher from Phoenix. I taught 2nd grade for 38 years. I'm visiting my daughter Rachel in Denver. She's expecting me for lunch. This is all some terrible mistake." Agent's radio crackled. Background check on came back clean. No criminal record, no warrants, no flags. 72 years old, retired, Phoenix resident for 43 years. Despite the clean background check, his expression didn't soften. "Mrs., our K-9 unit has indicated the presence of contraband in your luggage. We're going to need to inspect it." "Contraband?" His voice rose in pitch, edging toward panic. "What does that mean? There's nothing illegal in there. I don't even take aspirin without asking my doctor." Noticed details that painted a picture of his character. The small gold cross on a delicate chain around her neck, the wedding ring that looked like it hadn't been removed in decades, the sensible clothing that spoke of modest means and practical thinking. Her purse, when it had fallen open briefly, had revealed a worn Bible, reading glasses, a pack of tissues, and what looked like butterscotch candies. "Ma'am, I understand this is frightening," said, his tone deliberately calm. "But we need to follow protocol. When will you need you to step over here and wait while we examine your luggage?" "But I don't know what could possibly be wrong." His voice cracked, tears now streaming down her weathered cheeks. "I packed it myself. My daughter is waiting for me. We were going to have pot roast for lunch. It's her favorite. This can't be happening." A female TSA agent gently took his arm and guided her to an isolated chair about 30 feet from the carousel. Collapsed into it, her small frame seeming to shrink even smaller. She clutched her purse to her chest, her lips moving in what appeared to be silent prayer. Meanwhile, the bomb squad had arrived with their scanning equipment, rolling a large portable X-ray machine toward Carousel 7. Duke's agitation hadn't decreased one bit. If anything, the K-9 seemed even more desperate now, his whines carrying a note of urgency that made the hair on his neck stand up. Pulled aside, lowering his voice, "What's your read on the dog?" "He's never been like this," admitted quietly. "Not in 3 years, not even close. Whatever's in that bag, it's significant, major quantity or something unusual he's never encountered before." Nodded grimly, and the woman glanced at who sat hunched in the chair, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "Either she's the best actress I've ever seen, or she genuinely has no idea what's in her own suitcase. "Let's find out," said, signaling to the bomb squad team. The navy blue suitcase was carefully lifted from the carousel and placed on a stainless steel examination table that had been wheeled into position. Watched from her chair, her face a mask of confused terror. Duke strained against leash, his entire body focused on that suitcase with an intensity that seemed almost supernatural. The X-ray technician powered up the scanning equipment, and the terminal fell into an expectant silence. Whatever secrets that blue suitcase held were about to be revealed. "Everyone back. Clear the area now." Agent's voice boomed through the baggage claim terminal, echoing off the high ceilings with commanding authority. What had been a controlled perimeter suddenly became a full-scale evacuation. TSA agents and airport security officers moved through the crowd with urgent efficiency, their hands making sweeping motions toward the exits. Travelers who had been lingering to watch the drama were now being physically escorted away from Carousel 7. The atmosphere had shifted from curious tension to genuine alarm. "Is it a bomb?" someone shouted from the retreating crowd. "Please proceed to the main terminal immediately," an officer responded, refusing to confirm or deny. Within 3 minutes, the entire baggage claim area had been cleared except for essential personnel. Yellow caution tape went up, creating a 30-foot perimeter around the examination area. Airport police redirected incoming passengers to alternative carousels, and flight information displays were updated to reflect the closure of the entire zone. Remained in her isolated chair, now completely alone in a section that had held hundreds of people just moments before. A female TSA agent stood nearby, ostensibly for protection, but the positioning made it clear she was also there to ensure the elderly woman didn't flee. Not that looked capable of fleeing. She sat frozen, her face pale as parchment, her hands gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles had turned white. The bomb squad team worked with methodical precision. 2 technicians in protective vests positioned the portable X-ray machine, while a third prepared the imaging software on a ruggedized laptop. The navy blue suitcase sat on the stainless steel table like a defendant awaiting judgment. Held Duke back at the edge of the perimeter. The German shepherd was still locked onto the suitcase, his body vibrating with tension. Could feel the strain in the leash, the desperate pull of his partner toward that piece of luggage. Duke's training was impeccable. He'd been taught never to touch or disturb potential evidence, but his instincts were clearly warring with his discipline. "Easy, Duke. Easy, boy," murmured, though he knew his words were having little effect. The lead bomb squad technician, a woman named Lieutenant Sarah with 15 years of explosive ordnance experience, gave a thumbs up. "We're ready to scan." The portable X-ray machine hummed to life, its imaging sensors positioning around the suitcase. On the laptop screen, ghostly gray shapes began to materialize as the X-rays penetrated the hard shell exterior. And 3 other senior security personnel crowded around the laptop, their faces illuminated by the screen's blue glow. What they saw made them exchange worried glances. The suitcase was packed solid. Dense, irregular masses filled every available cubic inch of space from top to bottom, side to side. The shapes were organic, not the clean lines of electronics or the uniform density of plastic explosives. The material appeared layered, compressed, and tightly packed. "What are we looking at?" asked quietly. Lieutenant zoomed in on different sections, her practiced eyes scanning for telltale signatures of known threats. Not explosives, wrong density pattern. Not weapons, no metal signatures. The texture suggests organic material, possibly fabric or something biological. Biological, his jaw tightened, like a biohazard. "I can't tell from this image," admitted, her finger tracing the screen. "The compression is unusual. Whatever this is, it's been vacuum-packed or tightly compressed. Multiple layers, all roughly the same density." From her chair called out in a trembling voice, "Please, what's happening? What do you see? I told you it's just my clothes." Turn to face her. "Mrs. The X-ray shows your suitcase is completely full of dense organic material. Can you explain that?" "It's my clothes," his voice cracked with desperation. "I fold everything tightly to save space. My daughter Rachel taught me that. She travels for work. You fold and roll everything and it compresses down. That's all it is." Studied the X-ray image again. His explanation wasn't impossible. Tightly rolled clothes could create dense patterns on an X-ray, but it didn't explain Duke's behavior. The K9 was trained to detect narcotics and explosives, not clothing. Unless the clothes contained something else. "Duke's a narcotics K9, right?" Lieutenant asked, as if reading his thoughts. "Primarily, yes, also cross-trained for explosives." Nodded slowly. These organic masses could be concealing something. Drugs wrapped in clothing, money, even biological material. We won't know until we open it. By now, news crews had begun arriving at the airport. Camera crews with telephoto lenses were setting up positions beyond the security cordon, their reporters speaking urgently into microphones. The incident was already trending on social media. Denver Airport and K9 Alert were climbing Twitter's rankings as passenger videos spread across the internet. Made a decision. We open it manually, suit up your team. 2 bomb squad technicians donned additional protective equipment, reinforced gloves, face shields, chemical-resistant aprons. They approached the suitcase with the caution of people defusing a bomb, because in many ways, that's exactly what they might be doing. An unknown package creating this level of K9 agitation could contain anything. "Mrs. called out, "We need the key or combination to your suitcase." Stood on shaky legs, fumbling in her purse. She produced a small silver key attached to a keychain with a faded photo of 2 young children, presumably her. Her hand trembled so badly that when she tried to hand the key to an officer, it fell to the floor with a metallic clink that seemed to echo through the cavernous space. The officer retrieved it and carried it to the examination table as if it were made of nitroglycerin. Duke's whining reached a fever pitch. Had to use both hands on the leash now, the powerful K9 pulling with such force that his shoulders ached. Lieutenant took the key, holding it up to the light briefly before inserting it into the lock. The suitcase had a standard 3-digit combination lock integrated with a key override. She turned the key slowly, and the lock mechanism clicked open with a sound that seemed impossibly loud. Everyone in the secured area held their breath. Gripped the back of her chair, her face a portrait of confused terror. She genuinely appeared to have no idea what was about to be revealed. His hands moved to the zipper, gripping it carefully. She looked at who gave a curt nod. The zipper moved slowly, tooth by tooth, revealing a gap in the hard shell exterior. The sound seemed to stretch for an eternity. Duke barked once, sharp and urgent. Pulled the zipper all the way around the perimeter of the suitcase. Her partner positioned himself on the opposite side, hands ready to catch whatever might spill out. "On 3, said quietly, 1, 2, 3. They lifted the top of the suitcase. And the truth inside the blue suitcase was finally, shockingly, revealed. The top of the suitcase swung open, and for a split second there was absolute silence. Then Lieutenant breathed out a single word, "Jesus." The interior of the navy blue suitcase was packed, floor to ceiling, edge to edge, with vacuum-sealed plastic bags. But these weren't bags of clothes or personal items. Through the clear plastic, everyone could see what had Duke going absolutely insane. Money. Stacks upon stacks of United States currency, compressed into thick rectangular bundles, each one vacuum-sealed to remove every molecule of air. $20 bills, $50 bills, $100 bills. The plastic bags were layered like bricks in a wall, fitted together with such precision that not a single inch of space was wasted. The bills were crisp, organized by denomination, and packed so tightly that the entire suitcase had become a rigid block of cash. Holy mother of, couldn't finish his sentence. Felt his jaw drop. In his entire career in law enforcement, he'd seen drug busts, weapons seizures, and evidence lockers full of contraband, but he'd never seen anything like this. The sheer volume of currency was staggering. From her chair 30 feet away let out a sound that was somewhere between a gasp and a scream. What? That can't be. Her legs gave out completely. She collapsed back into the chair, her small body crumpling like a marionette with cut strings. The female TSA agent rushed to her side as began hyperventilating, her chest heaving with rapid, shallow breaths. "That's not mine." His voice rose to a shriek, raw with panic and disbelief. "I swear on my life, on my children's lives, that is not mine. I don't know where that came from. My suitcase had clothes in it." Lieutenant carefully lifted one of the vacuum-sealed bundles. Even through the protective gloves, she could feel the weight, the substantial, dense weight of compressed currency. She held it up to the light, examining it closely. The bills inside were predominantly 20s and 50s, bound in bank-style wrappers. "We need to count this," said, his voice tight with tension. "And we need federal agents here, now." An airport police officer was already on the radio, his words clipped and urgent. "This is Denver International. We need FBI response immediately. Baggage claim situation, Carousel 7. We have a significant currency seizure. Repeat, significant currency seizure." Watch Duke, and suddenly the K-9's behavior made perfect sense. His partner wasn't just alerting to money. He was alerting to what was on the money. Drug detection dogs were trained to recognize the scent of narcotics, but they also learned to identify the chemical signature of drug-contaminated currency. Money that had been used in drug transactions, stored near drugs, or handled by dealers absorbed those microscopic particles. And this much cash, packed this deliberately, could only mean one thing: drug money. "Duke's detecting narcotic residue," announced to the group. "This isn't just cash. This is dirty money." Sobs intensified. "I don't know anything about drugs. I've never even smoked a cigarette. Please, you have to believe me." 2 FBI agents arrived within 12 minutes, an astonishingly fast response time that indicated just how seriously federal authorities were taking this discovery. Agent Sarah, no relation to Lieutenant, and Agent Michael strode into the secured area with the confident authority of seasoned investigators. They flashed their credentials and immediately took command of the scene. Agent pulled on latex gloves and began carefully removing the vacuum-sealed bundles from the suitcase, laying them out on the examination table in organized rows. Each bundle was approximately the same size, roughly 8 inches by 4 inches by 2 inches. There were dozens of them. Agent set up a portable currency counter, a specialized machine used by banks and law enforcement to rapidly count large quantities of bills. As each bundle was opened and fed through the machine, the digital display climbed higher and higher. $47,000, $94,000, $156,000. The numbers kept rising, each bundle adding tens of thousands of dollars to the total. The vacuum-sealed bags had compressed the bills so efficiently that what would normally require a large duffel bag had been packed into a single carry-on suitcase. Watched from her chair, her face now streaked with tears and mascara, her entire body shaking uncontrollably. "I packed nightgowns," she whispered hoarsely. "My blue nightgown with the flowers, my white blouse fronts, my comfortable slacks, that's what I packed. Where did it go? Where are my clothes?" Agent paused in her counting to look at with sharp, assessing eyes. She'd interrogated hundreds of suspects, and she prided herself on reading people. The elderly woman's distress appeared genuine, but appearances could be deceiving. $312,000, $455,000, $628,000. The pile of counted bills grew larger, spreading across multiple tables now. Airport personnel had brought in additional surfaces to accommodate the growing evidence. Each bill was being checked for serial number patterns, looking for signs of counterfeiting or stolen currency. Agent used a specialized swab to test several bills for drug residue. The chemical indicator strips turned bright blue almost immediately, a positive result for cocaine. He tested another bundle, same result, and another. Every single test came back positive. "The entire stash is contaminated," announced. "Heavy cocaine contamination. This money has been in direct contact with narcotics, probably for extended periods." $740, $1,000. $809,000. $840, $7,000. The machine beeped, indicating the count was complete. Agent straightened up, her expression grim. $847,000. All in circulated bills, all contaminated with cocaine residue, all vacuum sealed for transport. Turn 2, his face hard. "Mrs., you're telling us you have no knowledge of this currency." "I packed clothes," screamed, her composure finally shattering completely. "3 blouses, 2 pairs of slacks, underwear, my toiletries, a book. That's all I packed. Someone switched it. Someone took my suitcase in." She couldn't continue. Her words dissolved into incoherent sobs. Agent pulled out her handcuffs, approaching slowly. "Mrs., I'm placing you under federal custody for suspicion of money laundering and narcotics trafficking. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." "No," wailed. "Please, no, I'm innocent. I don't know anything about this. Please." The female TSA agent helped support as Agent secured the handcuffs around her frail wrists. The elderly woman looked impossibly small and fragile, her silver hair disheveled, her floral cardigan askew, her face a mask of devastation. Felt a knot forming in his stomach. Something about this didn't add up, didn't fit any profile he'd ever learned. Retired elementary school teacher, no criminal record, flying to visit her daughter. And she'd checked this suitcase. If she'd known it contained nearly $1 million in drug money, why would she subject it to the chaos of airport baggage handling where it could be lost, stolen, or searched? As was led away, still proclaiming her innocence between sobs, caught Agent's eye. "We need to investigate every aspect of this," said quietly, "because I don't think we have the whole story yet." Agent nodded slowly, her eyes moving from the pile of contaminated cash to the retreating figure of. "Neither do I," she admitted. "Neither do I." Agent Sarah sat in a sterile interrogation room at the Denver FBI field office, watching through one-way glass. The elderly woman had been there for 3 hours now, and her story hadn't changed once. Not a single detail had wavered. Sat hunched at a metal table, her handcuffs removed, but a female agent stationed by the door, repeating the same information she'd given a dozen times. Clothes, toiletries, a book, nothing else. "Run it again," instructed the junior agent at the computer terminal beside her. On the screen, security footage from Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport began playing for the 7th time. The timestamp read 6:47 a.m. The camera angle showed the check-in counter for Southwest Airlines. There was, wearing the same floral cardigan, approaching with a navy blue hardshell suitcase rolling behind her. Leaned forward, studying every frame with obsessive attention to detail, lifted the suitcase onto the scale. The digital display flickered, 38 pounds. The check-in agent tagged it, affixed the baggage claim sticker, and sent it down the conveyor belt into the baggage system. "Freeze that," commanded. "Zoom in on the suitcase." The image pixelated as it enlarged, but details emerged. The navy blue exterior, the silver handles, and there, on the upper left corner near the handle, a small scratch, maybe 3 inches long, cutting across the hard plastic shell. "Got it," murmured. "Now pull up the footage from Denver when we opened it." The screen split, showing the suitcase on the examination table at Denver International. The junior agent zoomed in on the same upper left corner. The surface was pristine, no scratch. "They're not the same suitcase," said quietly, though she'd known this for the past hour. She'd known it, but proving it was different than knowing it. Agent entered the observation room, carrying a thick folder and 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to, who accepted it gratefully. "Background check came back clean. Squeaky clean," reported, flipping open the folder. Age 72. Retired elementary school teacher, Phoenix School District. Taught 2nd grade at Sunset Elementary for 38 years. Divorced 20 years ago, amicable split. Ex-husband lives in Florida. Has 2 adult children. Rachel Martinez, age 45, works as a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company in Denver. Son James, age 42, high school principal in Phoenix. "Any financial irregularities?" asked. "None. She lives on her pension and Social Security, about $3,400 a month. Owns her home outright, a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. Savings account has $47,000, which is consistent with someone who's been saving for 40 years. Credit score is 790. No debts beyond a small monthly credit card bill that she pays in full every month." Pulled out more documents. Her phone records show regular calls to her daughter Rachel, her son James, her sister in Tucson, and her doctor's office. That's it. No burner phones, no encrypted messaging apps, no suspicious contacts. Her email is an account she uses primarily for church newsletters and correspondence with former students. Sipped her coffee, her analytical mind processing the information. Former students. She maintains contact with dozens of them. They're in their 20s and 30s now. Send her graduation announcements, wedding invitations, baby photos. There are testimonials online. Rate My Teacher has her at 5 stars with comments like, "Mrs. was the kindest teacher I ever had, and she made me love reading." What about her travel history? "This is interesting," said, pulling out another sheet. She flies to Denver 4 times a year, always to visit her daughter. Always books the same airline, same type of ticket, same general schedule. She's predictable, creature of habit. That word hit like a lightning bolt. Predictable. "Pull up her previous flight records," ordered urgently. "I want to know every detail of her travel pattern for the past 2 years." The junior agent's fingers flew across the keyboard. Data populated the screen, flight numbers, dates, times, baggage information. His eyes scanned the information rapidly, her pulse quickening. "Look at this. September 15th last year, she flew Phoenix to Denver, Southwest Airlines, flight 1247, departing 7:15 a.m. March 22nd this year, same flight number, same departure time. June 8th, same pattern. And today, September 24th. Identical, finished. She books the same flight every time, same day of the week, same time, same airline. Because she's visiting her daughter on a regular schedule," said, her mind racing. "Rachel confirmed that, right?" Nodded. "Rachel said her mother visits every quarter. They plan it months in advance. Always stays for 5 days, always brings homemade cookies, always follows the same routine." Stood abruptly, walking to the window overlooking the interrogation room. Had her head in her hands, her small shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "Someone knew her pattern," said softly. "Someone knew exactly when she'd be flying, what she'd be carrying, how she operates." "You think someone switched the suitcases?" asked. "I don't think it. I know it." Turned back to the screens. "Pull up all baggage handler schedules at Phoenix Sky Harbor for the past 6 months. Cross-reference with any employees who have criminal records, financial problems, or suspicious behavior reports." While the junior agent worked, requested more footage. "I want to see the tarmac. I want to see what happened to Suitcase after it entered the baggage system." The footage took 20 minutes to retrieve. When it appeared on screen, and watched in silence as navy blue Suitcase, the one with the scratch, moved along conveyor belts deep in the airport's baggage handling system. Two baggage handlers in orange safety vests appeared on camera. They worked efficiently, loading bags onto carts destined for different flights. Then, something unusual happened. One handler, a Hispanic man in his 30s, stopped the conveyor belt briefly. He pulled Suitcase off, examined the baggage tag, then looked around carefully. He made a gesture to his partner, who moved to block the camera angle partially. When the first handler moved again, he was placing a different navy blue suitcase onto the Southwest Airlines cart, one that looked identical but had no scratch. There, breathed, there's the switch. Was already on his phone. Get me Phoenix FBI and airport security. I need those two baggage handlers identified and located immediately. The junior agent pulled up employee records, matching the footage to ID badges. Age 34, employed at Sky Harbor for 6 years, and his brother, Carlos, age 29, employed for 3 years. Felt the case cracking open in her mind like an egg. Run full background checks on both brothers, financial records, known associates, criminal histories, and check for similar incidents, other bags that might have been switched, other passengers who reported discrepancies. Within 45 minutes, a pattern emerged that makes blood run cold. 3 other elderly passengers had reported luggage discrepancies in the past 8 months. All had been dismissed as administrative errors or passenger confusion. All had flown the same routes, Phoenix to Denver or Phoenix to Los Angeles. All had been solo travelers with predictable schedules. The brothers' financial records showed deposits that didn't match their salaries. $15,000 here, $23,000 there, always in cash. Always deposited just below the $10,000 reporting threshold. They've been doing this for months, said grimly. Maybe longer, using innocent passengers as unwitting mules. Made a decision. She walked into the interrogation room, pulled out a chair across from and sat down. Looked up with red, swollen eyes. Please, she whispered, please believe me. Mrs., said gently, her entire demeanor changed. I need you to tell me one more time, in as much detail as possible, exactly what you packed in your suitcase this morning. His voice was hoarse from crying, but she began again. My blue nightgown with the white flowers. I bought it its last Christmas. My white cotton blouse from the one with pearl buttons. 2 pairs of slacks, 1 beige, 1 navy. 5 pairs of underwear, all hands cotton briefs, size medium. As recounted every mundane detail of her packing, felt certainty crystallizing in her chest. This woman was telling the truth. She was innocent. And somewhere between Phoenix and Denver, she'd become an unwitting courier in a sophisticated smuggling operation. Mrs. interrupted gently, I believe you. His head snapped up, hope flooding her devastated face. You do. Yes, said firmly. And now I need your help to catch the people who did this to you. Sarah stood before a whiteboard in the FBI's operations center, surrounded by a dozen federal agents and local law enforcement officers. Photographs, flight manifests, surveillance images, and connecting lines covered the board like a spider's intricate web. At the center of it all were 2, and Carlos. Here's what we've pieced together, began, her voice crisp and authoritative. The brothers have been running this operation for at least 18 months, possibly longer. They identify vulnerable targets, elderly solo travelers with predictable flight patterns. These passengers book the same flights, same times, creating a reliable schedule that can be exploited. She pointed to a timeline on the board. Wasn't random. She was selected because she flies Phoenix to Denver quarterly, always Southwest Flight 1247, always checking a navy blue hardshell suitcase. The brothers studied her pattern for months. Agent stepped forward, adding to the briefing. Here's how the switch works. And Carlos worked the early morning shift when typically flies. They know her bag is coming. Before her suitcase reaches the aircraft, they intercept it on the internal conveyor system, swap it with an identical suitcase filled with cash, and reroute her real luggage to a storage facility they control. The beauty of their system, continued, is that the passenger has no idea. Checks in her bag in Phoenix, expects to pick it up in Denver. The bag that arrives looks identical, same brand, same color, same size. Unless something goes catastrophically wrong, like a K9 alert, the passenger would collect it and never know the difference. Who'd been invited to the briefing with Duke resting at his feet, raised his hand. But eventually, the passenger would open the suitcase and see it's not their stuff. How did they plan to retrieve it before that happened? That's where the Denver connection comes in, said, pulling up new surveillance photos. We've identified 2 individuals at Denver International who work as part of the retrieval team. Robert Bobby Marsh, age 42, works as a contracted cleaning supervisor. And James, no relation to Agent, age 37, works in airport maintenance. The photos showed both men in their respective uniforms, positioned at various locations throughout the airport. These guys have access to restricted areas, explained. The plan is elegant. The suitcase comes off the plane, goes to baggage claim. Before the passenger can retrieve it or shortly after, Marsh or James makes contact, creates a distraction, or simply swaps it again with the passenger's real luggage. The drug money continues on its way, and the innocent courier gets their clothes back, none the wiser. Except today, Duke happened, said, scratching his K9's ears. Exactly, confirmed. Duke's alert forced us to open the suitcase publicly, exposing the operation. But here's what's critical. The people waiting in Denver to retrieve that cash don't know we've discovered it yet. She moved to a computer terminal and pulled up live footage from Denver International security cameras. The suitcase is still sitting in our evidence room, but we can use it as bait. We set a trap. Special Agent in charge Thomas Warren, who'd been listening silently from the corner, stepped forward. He was a barrel-chested man in his 50s with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen 3 decades of federal investigations. We're going to let the operation continue as if nothing happened, Warren announced. Is being released, we'll arrange for her to collect her actual luggage and proceed to her daughter's house. But that navy blue suitcase full of cash, we're going to put it back on Carousel 7 and watch who comes to collect it. The room buzzed with energy. This was the kind of operation that could take down an entire network. What about the brothers in Phoenix? One agent asked. Phoenix FBI has them under surveillance right now, Warren replied. The moment our Denver team makes arrests, Phoenix will move simultaneously. We'll coordinate the takedown across both cities. Pulled up a tactical map of Denver International's baggage claim area. Here's how this works. We place the suitcase back on the carousel at 3:00 p.m., approximately the time it would have arrived if there'd been no delay. We have agents positioned as travelers throughout the area, and Duke will be present but at a distance, ready to respond. She pointed to various positions on the map. Snipers here and here on the upper levels. SWAT teams staged in maintenance corridors with 30-second response time. Every exit monitored. We've informed TSA and airport security, but minimal personnel know the full operation. We can't risk a leak. Address the tactical concerns. These aren't street-level criminals. The operation has been running smoothly for over a year. They're careful, professional, probably connected to a larger cartel network. The money has to be going somewhere, and $847,000 represents serious organizational infrastructure. Which means the people coming to collect it will be trained, possibly armed, and definitely dangerous, Warren added grimly. Everyone wears vests. Nobody takes unnecessary risks. We want arrests, not casualties. Turn 2. How's Duke handling the stress? Looked down at his partner, who was resting calmly despite the intense energy in the room. He's good, ready to work, but I want him positioned where he can assist without being in the direct line of fire." "Agreed," Warren said. "You'll be in the secondary perimeter. If anyone runs, Duke can pursue." Over the next 2 hours, the team refined every detail of the operation. Communication protocols were established. Arrest teams were assigned specific targets. Contingency plans were developed for various scenarios. What if only one person showed up? What if they had backup? What if they realized it was a trap? Meanwhile, in a conference room down the hall, sat with her daughter Rachel, who'd driven to the FBI office in a panic after receiving the call that her mother had been arrested. Rachel was a polished woman in her mid-40s, wearing a business suit, her face a mixture of fury and fear. "Mom, I don't understand any of this," Rachel said, gripping her mother's hand. Looked smaller than ever, exhausted from hours of interrogation and emotional trauma. "Someone used me, sweetheart. They used me to smuggle money." Agent entered the room, her expression softer now. "Mrs., we're going to make this right, but I need you to do something for us." Looked up with tired eyes. "Anything." "We need you to go to baggage claim just as you normally would. Collect your suitcase, your real suitcase which we've recovered. Go to your daughter's house. Act as if nothing unusual happened." "You want to use my mother as bait?" Rachel demanded, her voice sharp with protective anger. "No," said firmly. "Your mother will be nowhere near the danger. We just need her to maintain the appearance of normalcy. The people who set this up are watching to see if their operation was compromised. If leaves the airport with luggage and goes to your house, it signals that everything went smoothly." Squared her shoulders, a flash of the determined teacher who'd commanded second-grade classrooms for nearly 4 decades. "I'll do it. Those people terrorized me. They made me think I was a criminal. I want to help catch them." Nodded with respect. "Thank you, Mrs." At 2:30 p.m., the operation began. The navy blue suitcase, all $847,000 of contaminated cash still inside, was placed on Carousel 7. And the trap was set. Carousel 7 at Denver International Airport looked completely normal at 2:55 p.m. Travelers milled about, checking their phones, greeting arriving passengers, and waiting for their luggage. Children pressed their faces against the glass barriers, watching bags tumble onto the conveyor belt. Elderly couples discussed dinner plans. Business executives typed urgently on laptops. But nothing about the scene was normal. The young mother with the stroller near Pillar C, FBI Special Agent Jennifer Marks, the stroller containing surveillance equipment and a concealed weapon. The businessman at the coffee kiosk, Agent Tom, his laptop screen showing not spreadsheets but live camera feeds. The maintenance worker cleaning windows on the upper level. SWAT team leader, his cleaning cart hiding tactical gear and communications equipment. 16 federal agents were positioned throughout the baggage claim area, all appearing to be ordinary travelers or airport employees. Every angle was covered, every exit monitored, every contingency planned. Agent Sarah sat in a mobile command center disguised as an airport shuttle van, watching 8 different video feeds simultaneously. Her earpiece crackled with constant updates from positioned agents. "Package is in place," confirmed. The navy blue suitcase sat on the metal carousel, rotating slowly past the waiting crowd, indistinguishable from the dozens of other bags. "All units maintain positions," ordered into her microphone. "Remember, we need visual confirmation and physical contact with the package before we move. Nobody acts until my signal." Stood near the exit doors with Duke, both positioned to intercept anyone who tried to run. The German shepherd sat calmly at his handler's side, professional and alert, showing no signs of the morning's earlier agitation. Wore civilian clothes, jeans, and a polo shirt, and appeared to be just another passenger waiting for someone's arrival. 3:00 p.m. came and went. The carousel rotated. Passengers collected their bags and left. New travelers arrived. The blue suitcase made another rotation, and another. "Anything?" asked. "Negative," came the responses from position agents. 3:15 p.m., still nothing. Felt tension building in her shoulders. Had the operation been compromised? Did the retrieval team somehow know about the trap? Then at 3:23 p.m., something changed. "We've got a possible," agent reported quietly from the coffee kiosk. White male, early 40s, gray suit, approaching from the main terminal, matches the description of Bobby Marsh. His eyes locked onto the feed showing the man. He walked with casual confidence, carrying a leather briefcase, checking his phone periodically. He looked like 1,000 other business travelers. "Confirmed," said from his position near the rental car counters. "That's Robert Marsh, positive ID." Marsh approached Carousel 7, standing about 10 feet back from the belt, not looking directly at any specific luggage. He appeared to be scrolling through his phone, just another bored traveler. "He's waiting for something," murmured, "or someone." 2 minutes later, her instinct proved correct. "Second subject approaching from the west entrance," Agent Marks reported. "Asian male, late 30s, airport maintenance uniform." James, no relation to Agent Sarah, walked into the baggage claim area carrying a toolbox and what appeared to be a work order clipboard. He moved with the purposeful stride of someone on a specific task. The two men didn't acknowledge each other, didn't make eye contact, didn't show any sign of coordination, but noticed they'd positioned themselves at opposite ends of Carousel 7, with clear to each other. "They're communicating," said. "Watch for the signal." The blue suitcase made another rotation past both men. James pretended to check something on his clipboard. Marsh continued scrolling his phone. They were waiting, confirming the package, making sure no obvious surveillance was present. Then Marsh made his move. He pocketed his phone, stepped forward casually, and reached for the navy blue suitcase as it passed in front of him. His hand closed around the handle. Geo, commanded. The baggage claim area erupted into controlled chaos. "FBI, hands up." Agent burst from the coffee kiosk, weapon drawn, badge displayed. "Federal AG&TS, move." Agent Marks abandoned her stroller, her service weapon trained on James. For one frozen second, both suspects stood perfectly still, their faces registering shock and calculation. Then they ran. Bobby Marsh abandoned the suitcase and sprinted toward the exit doors, his expensive shoes slapping against the polished floor. James threw his toolbox at the nearest agent and bolted toward a restricted maintenance corridor. "Suspect 1 heading south," yelled, pursuing Marsh. "Suspect 2 going for the maintenance access," Marks shouted. "Unclip Duke's leash. Duke, take HIM." The German shepherd exploded into motion, his powerful legs propelling him across the baggage claim floor like a furry missile. James had maybe a 10-foot head start, but Duke closed the distance in seconds. James reached the maintenance corridor door, his hand grasping the handle. Duke launched himself, 85 pounds of trained muscle and determination, hitting James at waist level. The suspect went down hard, crashing into the door frame with a sickening thud. Duke's jaws clamped onto his arm, not breaking skin, but applying enough pressure to make resistance impossible. "Get him off, get HIM off," James screamed, trying to pull away. Arrived 3 seconds later. "Freeze, don't move or I command him to bite harder." James went limp, whimpering in pain and fear. Meanwhile, Bobby Marsh made it exactly 30 feet before running directly into what appeared to be a janitor mopping the floor. The janitor, actually SWAT team leader, dropped his mop, swept Marsh's legs, and had him face down on the ground with handcuffs applied in under 4 seconds. "You have the right to remain silent," recited calmly, as if he arrested people every day while mopping. "Anything you say can and will be used against you." His voice crackled over the radio. "Phoenix, you're clear to move." 1,200 miles away in Phoenix, FBI agents simultaneously kicked in the doors of two modest suburban homes, was arrested in his kitchen, mid-bite into a sandwich. Carlos was pulled from his car in a shopping center parking lot, surrounded by 8 armed agents before he could even unbuckle his. Additional raids hit 4 other locations: storage facilities where passengers' real luggage was kept, a warehouse containing accounting records, and 2 residences belonging to cartel associates. By 4:15 p.m., 11 people were in custody across 2 states. Back in Denver, emerged from the command center to survey the scene. Both suspects were secured, being read their Miranda rights by arresting agents. The blue suitcase sat on an evidence cart, tagged and photographed. Airport operations were already returning to normal, the disruption minimized to under 6 minutes. Stood with Duke, who sat proudly at his handler's side, tail wagging, knowing he'd done his job perfectly. Approached them, a slight smile breaking through her professional demeanor. "Good dog," she said, reaching down to scratch Duke's ears. The German shepherd's tail wagged harder. "Outstanding work, officer," added. If Duke hadn't made that initial alert this morning, this entire operation would have continued indefinitely. Looked down at his partner with unmistakable pride. "He's the best partner I've ever had." The smuggling ring that had operated for 18 months, moving an estimated $3.2 million in drug proceeds, was finished. And it had all come crashing down because one highly trained K-9 couldn't ignore the scent of contaminated cash, stood at the window of her daughter's Denver home, hands wrapped around a cup of chamomile tea, watching the sunset paint the Rocky Mountains in shades of orange and gold. 3 days had passed since the most terrifying experience of her life, but her hands had finally stopped shaking. "Mom, you don't have to testify if you're not ready," Rachel said gently, sitting beside her on the couch. "Agents said they have enough evidence without your statement." Turned, her weathered face showing a strength that hadn't been there before. "No, sweetheart, I want to do this. Those people terrorized me. They made me feel like a criminal. They could have ruined my entire life." She set down her tea with determined finality. "I'm testifying at every single trial if they'll let me." And she did exactly that. Over the following months, became the prosecution's star witness. The gentle retired teacher who'd spent 38 years shaping young minds stood before federal judges and juries, recounting her ordeal with quiet dignity. She described packing her suitcase that September morning, checking it at the Phoenix airport, and the absolute horror of seeing $847,000 in cash instead of her clothing. Her testimony was devastating to the defense. Jurors saw a grandmother, not a criminal. They saw an innocent woman who'd been exploited by a sophisticated cartel operation. Defense attorneys tried to suggest she was complicit, but's background, her modest pension, her spotless record, everything contradicted their narrative. And Carlos were convicted first. The brothers received 15 and 13 years respectively in federal prison for money laundering, conspiracy, and narcotics trafficking. Their smuggling operation had moved over $3.2 million in 18 months, all using innocent travelers as unwitting couriers. Bobby Marsh and James followed. Both took plea deals, receiving 8 years each in exchange for testimony against higher-level cartel operatives. Their cooperation led to 14 additional arrests across 3 states, dismantling an entire money laundering network. The case made national headlines. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC all covered the story of the elderly teacher who'd accidentally become a drug mule. Appeared on Good Morning America, telling her story with grace and composure, warning other travelers to inspect their luggage carefully and report any discrepancies immediately. But the real star of the media coverage was Duke. 6 weeks after the arrest, the Denver Police Department held a formal commendation ceremony at their headquarters. The main auditorium was packed with officers, city officials, media representatives, and the public. Camera flashes popped like fireflies as dignitaries took their positions on the stage. Duke sat at perfect attention beside Officer, his German Shepherd posture proud and alert. Someone had brushed his coat until it gleamed like polished mahogany, and he wore a special ceremonial collar for the occasion. Denver's chief of police approached the podium. "Ladies and we're here today to recognize extraordinary service in the line of duty. In my 28 years in law enforcement, I've never seen a case quite like this one. A single K9 alert, one dog's refusal to ignore his training, led to the largest money laundering bust in Colorado history and the dismantling of an interstate smuggling operation." The audience applauded. Duke's ears perked up at the noise, but he remained seated. Chief continued. K9 Duke, a 4-year veteran of the Denver Police Department, demonstrated the exact qualities we value in law enforcement: vigilance, dedication, and unwavering commitment to duty. His alert on September 24th initiated an investigation that resulted in 11 arrests, the seizure of $3.2 million in drug proceeds, and the rescue of an innocent woman from a nightmare situation. More applause. Placed his hand gently on Duke's head, pride evident in every line of his face. "It is my honor," Chief announced, "to present K9 Duke with the Denver Police Department Medal of Valor, the highest commendation we can bestow." Stood and Duke rose with him, moving in perfect synchronization. They approached the podium together, partners in every sense of the word. Chief attached a special medal to Duke's collar, a gleaming bronze medallion engraved with his name, badge number, and the citation for valor. The auditorium erupted in standing ovation. Duke's tail began wagging, the only break in his professional demeanor, as if he understood that all these humans were celebrating him. But the most touching moment came next. Walked onto the stage, moving slowly but with determination. She'd flown back to Denver specifically for this ceremony. In her hands, she carried a gift, a beautiful leather collar she'd had custom-made, with Duke's name stitched in gold thread. She knelt down with some difficulty, her 72-year-old knees protesting, until she was at Duke's level. The German Shepherd watched her with intelligent amber eyes. "This brave dog saved my life," said, her voice thick with emotion. "I almost didn't believe in heroes anymore. I thought heroes only existed in storybooks I used to read to my second graders." Tears streamed down her face as she stroked Duke's head. "But you're real. You're the hero I've ever known." Duke leaned forward and gently licked her cheek, his tail wagging with genuine affection. There wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium. The footage went viral. Within 48 hours, Duke's story had been viewed over 50 million times across social media platforms. Children sent letters and drawings to the Denver Police Department, all addressed to Duke the Hero Dog. A children's book publisher reached out about creating a picture book based on his story. Framed one of the children's drawings, a crayon illustration of Duke wearing a cape and a medal, and hung it in his locker at the station. Eventually returned home to Phoenix, finally having completed her visit with Rachel, though 3 months later than planned. She brought with her the most incredible story of her life, one that would become legendary at family gatherings, church socials, and reunions with former students. She kept a framed photograph on her mantle, herself kneeling beside Duke at the ceremony, the German Shepherd's medal gleaming in the camera flash, both of them surrounded by applause and love. Every few months she'd fly back to Denver, always carefully inspecting her luggage, to visit Rachel. And she always made one additional stop, the Denver Police Department K9 unit, where she'd bring homemade dog treats and spend an hour with Duke, the hero who'd saved her from a nightmare she never saw coming. Duke would greet her each time with a wagging tail and gentle eyes, accepting her treats and affection with the humble grace of a true hero who was just doing his job. And would stand nearby, watching his partner, knowing that some bonds transcended species, transcended duty, transcended everything except love and loyalty, and the extraordinary courage of one remarkable dog. The end.